All right, folks, Yishai Fleischer here. Bizarre, really bizarre. According to some, Israel is the most hated country in the world. The most hated country in the world. Not North Korea, not Iran, not some of the, despotic countries that are murdering thousands like Sudan and other places in South America and in Africa. No, Israel, right? This country of light and goodness and God's gift to humanity, the return to Jerusalem and the technology that comes out of here, and really the stability that Israel brings. No, Israel is considered the most hated country in the world. Alex Jones, in his immutable fashion, has said it.
Israel is so hated now. The most hated country in the world. The numbers are all there. It is the hottest thing to do to just attack Israel all day and attribute anything bad in the world, bad weather, you name it, to Israel. You slip on a banana peel, it's Israel. That if I literally donned an SS officer's uniform and said Heil Hitler for 2 hours straight, I'd have higher ratings than if I sat up here with true intellectual depth and history and truth.
And basically saying crazy Nazi stuff is going to be more popular than being pro-Israel. So I think that's not true. I think that there's still millions and billions of people that love Israel and that know the truth and can see goodness. But it is true that there is this huge surge of anti-Semitism. Now, to me, anti-Semitism serves a few purposes. First thing, it brings Jewish people home, right? It sends our people back to the land of Israel. And like it or not, anti-Semitism has always been a channel, a push to bring the Jewish people back to the land. In many ways, anti-Semitism is people's hate, but God's love, right? Like they hate us, but they bring us back home. And there's God's love in that because he's trying to ingather the exiles and show his love to Abraham, the promise that he made 3,500 years ago. So that's aspect number one. Aspect number two is that it makes Israel stronger because in many ways, when we're alone, we fulfill that biblical prophecy, a nation that will dwell alone. It doesn't mean cut off. It means that we have to stand up and show to ourselves and show to the world that we are connected to the superpower, and that is God. And Israel, it's prophesied. Israel is a nation that dwells alone. At the same time, we've always been in cahoots and in friendship or in challenge with superpowers. That's true throughout history. But if the world hates us, just like Alex Jones says, then maybe indeed we're living in a time of a nation that dwells alone. And number three is that anti-Semitism serves to shrink the powers or the nations that become sickened with anti-Semitism. It actually shrinks them. And that's a fact. Now, Israel was very much in cahoot with France in the late 50s and early 60s. And then we fell out of favor with France. And guess what happened, right? Guess what happened? France turned towards the Arabs, pivoted away from Israel. Everybody was shocked. Israel had to pivot away to, in that case, the United States. But it took a few years to deal with this change. You know, we had exchange of intelligence, exchange of technology. They gave us the ability to build nuclear power plants. We gave them intelligence on North Africa because we had a lot of Arabic speakers. We had a flourishing relationship. They gave us Mirage jets, right? Does that sound familiar? And yet that broke. And then we had to pivot away from France. But guess what happened to France? They just shrank away. They shrank away and became the France of today, which is really not a serious power and certainly not a serious warring power. Okay, speaking of warring, here is National Security Advisor to President Obama, Susan Rice. She's talking on, I think, on one of the Meet the Press type shows, and she's talking about the shocking words of J.D. Vance. Take a look.
So before you go, I want to ask you about the way President Trump and Vice President Vance have been talking about Israel and the Israelis. Here, let's take a look at just what J.D. Vance said last week.
Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
First of all, is that an accurate description of the state of affairs? It's an extraordinary statement. You said Trump is the only head of state sympathetic to the nation of Israel, that the United States is the only powerful ally that Israel has in the entire world. Is that true?
You know, I think that was an extraordinary statement, and I'm sure it shocked a lot of people, particularly in Israel. But, you know, one of the outcomes of this is, you know, as Prime Minister Netanyahu has himself publicly acknowledged on many occasions, he has tried to persuade many prior presidents to engage in war with Israel against Iran, and promising that would result in regime change and an end to Iran posing any threat. What we've got as a result of that war, which President Trump was the first to take the bait on, what is a strengthened Iran in terms of its geopolitical stature in the region, not militarily, conventionally in the short term, but its nuclear program is fully intact. There is nothing in that agreement that requires that the nuclear material, the dust, as the president likes to call it, will be removed from Iran. It will
or
it can
destroyed.
Stay there
Just has to be
and
diluted.
stay in place. But the Israelis have suffered the most because now, you know, this administration, if you take the president and the vice president's words, has basically said to Israel, your concerns are not ours.
Okay, so I have a few comments here. First thing, it's really rich to hear the Obama administration people talking about a nuclear Iran. They were about to hand the Iranians every right to build a nuclear weapon, and they were behind the original agreement, which basically barely limited the Iranians, and they were loving it. It was President Trump who overturned that JCPO. What was it called? The all nuclear agreement, right? You know, it has fancy letters, but the meaning of it is simple. That the Obama administration was certainly sympathetic to Iran. The Trump administration is shooting at the Iranians, right? The Trump administration is literally shooting at the Iranians, and they have now disentangled them from Lebanon, and has allowed Israel, and Israel's been in many ways the leader of, smashing Iran, attacking and pushing it back. It's rich to hear Susan Rice saying like, oh yeah, now Iran is in better shape. Far from it. Far from it. They're not in better shape on their land, nor are they in better shape in Lebanon. Do I like the new memorandum of understanding? No, I don't. But I'm pretty sure that the Iranians are going to crash that thing. And even today, there's reports that America is striking back at Iran and talking about pushing them back hard. By the way, and this may surprise you, I actually agree with J.D. Vance that Israeli ministers should not be attacking President Trump and should be careful with their language. He's still a big ally. He's done a lot of good for Israel, and we should be cautious not to use language that's too harsh. We should attack maybe the memorandum of understanding, but not President Trump. He's done a lot for us, and I think he's going to continue to do a lot for us. At the same time, we all know you can't really control Israeli ministers and Jewish mouths. It just doesn't work that way. And it's a little bit rich coming from, you know, the great democracy in the United States telling us to shut the mouths of our ministers. It doesn't really work that way. Although if I could, I would. You know, if I could, I would. I'd be like, listen, let's tone it down. Let's continue to have a good relationship. They were never in it for us. And we have to continue to fight Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas on our terms. And as long as the United States, has no problems with that, doesn't block us from fighting our enemies, then that's good enough. And they've done a lot. We should be thankful for that. But with regarding to the statement of J.D. Vance that Israel's all alone, so I go back to my 3 points earlier. 1, anti-Semitism brings Jewish people back home. 2, it fulfills a nation that will dwell alone. And 3, if the world is becoming anti-Semitic, that means actually various powers are going to shrink. That's a historical fact. And if the United States, God forbid, turns anti-Semitic, it'll go down the way of France to shrink to its smaller power than being a superpower. In any case, I want to say that even within the American administration, there are different voices. Here's a video that was recorded by Marco Rubio some months ago, but I think, I don't know if I played it before, and I think it's absolutely imperative that you hear these words and you understand how some people in the United States and around the world really think about Israel. Beautiful, spot on words. And before I play Marco Rubio, I just want to remind you that we're building Israel. We're building it. And God is building it. And we're building it. And you're building it. We're going to continue to build it. Let's build it together. BuildIsrael.com. buildisrael.com. I love that name. Thank you, God, for putting that in my head. Buildisrael.com or buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. Buy me a coffee. Thanks so much. Buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. A little bit of your coffee comes a long way to support our show and our team and continuing the effort to broadcast truth, goodness, strength, and vision and light from the Holy Land. Here's Marco Rubio. Every word is magical here. Check this out.
I want to begin by thanking Foreign Minister Saar for this kind invitation, and I regret that I cannot be with you all in person. Golda Meir once said, "It took Moses 40 years to find the only place in the Middle East with no oil." But Israel's wealth lay not under the ground, but in its people, the Jewish people, exiles, pilgrims, and dreamers from around the world who made the desert bloom into a high-tech superpower. Israel accomplished this miracle not by abandoning its history and identity, but by embracing them. Sadly, some of Israel's neighbors have failed to appreciate how following Israel's example could have brought prosperity to the region. Instead, they chose war. They decided to impoverish their people in a futile effort to destroy Israel. They succeeded in the former, while failing in the latter. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest bigotry, and given that we are all here today, it is also the world's most futile. Egyptian pharaohs, Roman emperors, Persian shahs, and Middle Eastern despots have sought to destroy the nation of Israel. Adolf Hitler dreamed of a world without Jews, an idea he shares with Hamas. Today, these regimes and empires have crumbled into dust, but Israel stands, and the Jewish people prosper. I pray for the day when the entire world will recognize the futility of anti-Semitism, when leaders will abandon self-destructive hatred and forge a new future in partnership with Israel by building on the Abraham Accords. Under President Trump's leadership, there are signs that the future may be closer than we dared dream. But only if we can overcome the futile, persistent evil of anti-Semitism can we reach that future. Earlier this year, I stood beside Foreign Minister Saar at the Yad Vashem Memorial. I remembered the millions of Jews who were slaughtered and reflected on the meaning of the words, "never again." The importance of those words were brought home to every American last week when Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram were murdered in cold blood outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum here in Washington, D.C. Yaron was a Christian born in Germany who came to love the Jewish state. Sarah was from Kansas and loved Yaron. They dreamed of marrying in Jerusalem, and instead, they were cut down in cold blood by a monster who did not care about Yaron's faith or Sarah's background. We should never forget that as he was being arrested after killing 2 innocents who he believed were Jews, the murderer proudly screamed, "Free, free Palestine." Words that now serve as a battle cry for the death of Jews, the destruction of Israel, and the horrors we must never again allow. There can be no compromise with anti-Semitism. There can be no nuanced separation of hatred of Israel and hatred of the Jewish people. Those who call to boycott Israel are calling for the boycott of their Jewish neighbors and classmates. Those who call for violence against Israelis are calling for violence against Jews. Those who call for the destruction of Israel are calling for the destruction of the Jewish people. That is why, as we extend our prayers to Yaron and Sarah's loved ones, we must stand in solidarity with Israel. There can be no coexistence with evil. There can be no nuance to hatred. Under President Trump, the United States will stand with the Jewish people. We have implemented a vigorous new visa policy that will prevent foreign nationals from coming to the United States to foment hatred against our Jewish community. We are holding international organizations and nations accountable for rhetoric against Israel that resurfaces in the manifesto of monsters, like Yaron and Sarah's killer. But we do see an eventual light at the end of this long tunnel of suffering. One can imagine a Middle East in which the Abraham Accords eventually reign. So thank you for the opportunity to address you.
So I just think that that Marco Rubio, those words are just so spot on. And what he says there is Palestine, when it says free, free Palestine, means destroy Israel, destroy the Jewish people. That's what it's really about. And he's also right that the Trump administration has done a lot to push back on Iran and now given us this opportunity to make peace or a détente or the continuation of the Abraham Accords with Lebanon, and identifying Iran as a problem and fighting with them. Okay, maybe not to my full satisfaction, but fighting with them and coming to this day now that we should really be so thankful. Anybody else would receive, a Nobel Prize for having Israel and Lebanon reach this great and historic day. So that's moving forward. And there are people who don't understand that Israel is never isolated. There are millions of people who love the Bible. There are millions of people who love Israel. There are nations that can see the light of Israel because they've been gifted with the eyes to see it. And then there are nations whose eyes have gone dark, and basically the blessing leaves them when they begin to curse Israel. And that's a shame for them. I hope certainly the United States doesn't go down that path, but Israel moves forward. And I know that you out there are a blesser and not a cursor, because you want to be blessed, because you want to be channeled into goodness. And thank God that Israel is alive today. Thank God that it protects the Jewish people. It brings them back home. The ingathering is afoot. Great things are on the way, including, by the way, the third temple, which is on the way. And there are certainly people who recognize that. You saw Marco Rubio in his amazing statements, really seeing what is evil and what is good. God bless you, folks, wherever you are. Stay tuned, stay strong, stay connected, stay part of the story. Keep broadcasting the truth like we do here at Yishai Fleischer TV. Lots of love and lots of blessings, and shalom.